Hello, this is a continuation of a series of 3 videos dealing with business closing. If you recall, in the first video we just discussed an introduction and an overview to what business closing is all about, what it is, how you do it, and when you do it. In this video we're going to talk about some setup steps, and then in the final video we will talk about the actual process itself. What we're going to cover in this particular video is looking at some of the predefined quick report groups, and also look at how you go about customizing those report groups. The first series of predefined groups deal with the concept of closeout or closing a business, and these consist of 4 specific groups. The beginning process of closing for reconciliation, closing a day, closing a month, and closing a year. Let's talk about the first 2 of these, the begin close and the close day. All of the closing related groups are used in a sequential fashion. So you would begin a close process with the begin close, and its primary purpose is for reconciliation to make sure that your cash receipts balance with what's reflected in Sirius. There are 3 reports that are in this group. One is a snapshot of the financial summary. The other one is a snapshot of payments received for the period. And then the third is a snapshot of the work in process for the period. Now these can either be printed or they can be previewed on the screen. If the reconciliation is satisfactory and you are actually ready to begin the formal closing, then you would proceed after doing the begin close. Then you would choose the close day. Now this consists of a series of reports and then the process of closing. There are 3 or 4 reports in this particular area. One is the daily financial summary. The other one is a daily reports, payment reports, the sales that are picked up for the period, and then the system is going to close for the day. And this will require an affirmative response by you, and then it will print a general ledger summary changes, export perhaps to an external accounting system. Then it will close that export period and then back up the database. Now, if it happens to be the end of the month, then after the daily close, you would choose the monthly closeout group. And that's going to consist of a financial summary that's going to summarize the balance sheet changes in sales for the month. It will print an accounts receivable summary report. It will print a sales tax summary report, and then it will close the month, again requiring affirmative response from you that it's okay. And then the 4th and final closeout you would do only at the end of the calendar year in December, and that would consist of a yearly financial summary showing the year's activity, yearly sales tax summary, and then it would close the year. So just to summarize, the closeout process is a series of 1, 2, 3, and 4 steps. Steps 1 and 2 begin the process. Step 2 proceeds with a daily close. And then the 3rd step you would do at the end of each calendar month, and that would be the monthly close. And then the yearly close you would do only at the end of December to close the calendar year. The predefined quick report groups also include a series of analytical or analysis related reports in various groups to help you do a better job of managing your business. There's a group dealing with employee time clock, another group for estimates, 3 groups that are related to sales, and then the final group is related to workflow management. The Use of these various analytical report groups is optional. You don't have to use them, or you can use them whenever you choose to do so. If you're using control for payroll purposes, then you will likely have your employees clock in at the beginning of the day, clock out at lunch, clock back in at the end of the lunch period, and then at the end of the day. Then this particular employee time clock report group prints a report that a group that you might run at the end of a week, every 2 weeks, depending on what your payroll period. This particular preset series shows that based on the paying of overtime in excess of 40 hours in a week. Now, the second analytical group is related to estimates. And this consists of 5 reports that you can choose to run. One gives an analysis of estimates generated by primary salesperson, those estimates converted from an estimate to an invoice by primary salesperson, those estimates that are still pending and being worked on, those that have been rejected by the customer, or those that you have deliberately voided as they're no longer valid. Now, there's a series of 3 analysis groups that are sales related. The first one on the left is specifically oriented around accounts receivable. This will print an aging summary, which is 1 line per customer, showing the various balances that are in each of the aging groups. A detail AR report by customer shows all of the open invoices, their age, and the aging bracket that they're in. And those of you that would be managing ARs by salesperson, it breaks down the AR summary by salesperson. The second group, sales analysis, is generating several different reports. The first one is just an analysis of sales by calendar month for a particular period, sales by all salespeople, sales by the primary salesperson, sales that have had any discounts granted, sales based on the use of promotions based on placed orders or picked up sales, and then a comparison of estimated versus actual cost summary. The third and final sales-related group is just a series of reports that show distribution of sales by several different categories. One is distribution by calendar month. Second is a sales report by dollar volume, descending order of volume by customer, descending report of order frequency by customers, distribution of sales within the various industries, a couple of origin-related reports, first at the customer level, then at the order level, distribution of sales by zip code or postal code, and then a distribution of report or sales by product category, and then detail product. Now, the workflow group is intended to help you manage the process of production through the shop. So these are all work in process related. And the first one is work in processes by line item station. Second one is work in process by machine, by order station, and by summary by order level. Now we will look at some of the customization things that you can do with these various report groups. And we will examine by looking at Sirius itself how you can go about adding or removing reports or report groups, and then how you can reorder or change the ordering of reports within a group and also groups themselves. What we want to look at now is the process of customizing the quick report groups. And you do that by using the setup function, and then specifically reporting setup. This will open the screens here, and what we're going to focus on is a discussion of reports in quick reports. This is where all of the predefined groups are located, and it defines the groups themselves that we've talked about in the previously in this particular video. And then within each of these groups are the individual reports that make up the group. Now, what we will talk about in the customization is the notion of adding a report, or adding a group, or changing the order of these groups or reports within a group. And then thirdly, the notion of activating or deactivating an entire group or a report in that group. First, I want to talk about the deactivation process. Take these in a little bit different order. If you recall, earlier in this video, we talked about the predefined closeout groups, and we discussed the beginning process, the close day, the close month, and the close year. Well, notice that there is a group that's been defined that is close for a week. Now, this group, if we select it, notice that the show on menu is not turned on. So the group physically exists, but has been deactivated. So if you were preferring to be able to do a close at the end of a week, then you can do so by selecting the Edit button over on the far right and simply put a check mark on the Show On menu, and then resave that, and now that group has been added to your standard or predefined quick report groups. And you can use that as a fifth step. So you might do a begin close to begin the process, a close day. If it's a Friday, you would choose the close week. And then if it's the end of the month, you would choose the close month, the close year. So if you choose the weekly report and add it to the groups, then it's a 5-step process rather than a 4. Now we're going to talk about deactivating or activating individual reports or actions within a particular group. And the best example to do this is within the close day. If you recall from earlier in the video where we talked about the predefined groups, you'll recall that it started with the daily financial summary, the payments, the sales, the close day, the GL changes, report or export for QuickBooks, close the export, and backup. But you'll notice that there are some items in this group that did not show up in the predefined, specifically the daily settlement of the credit card. And the reason is that it is turned off. Now, this particular item is an action, and it requires the use of the capital Q credit card module. So if you're not using that credit card module, then you would leave this one turned off. But if you are using the credit card module, then it would be imperative that you get into the edit mode, put a check mark on the Show On menu, resave that change, and then that particular action will be a part of your daily close. So that one has been turned off, or is permanently off. This one is off. It is primarily used with the accounting module, but it doesn't have to be. You can, and it deals with taking deposits that you've taken out of the internal undeposited funds and transferring those deposits to the internal checking account. Normally it's used within the accounting module. So if you're not using it, it's likely that you would leave them turned off. This one turned off. The other one that's turned off is the daily deposit. This is optional. It's turned off. And then you'll notice that if you're not going to be exporting to any accounting system, then you would likely want to come in and maybe turn this one off. However, this is a good report to show you the net change in debits and credits, so that if you're doing the update of your general ledger manually, you would likely leave this one turned on. If you choose not to export to any accounting system, then all three of these would be turned off. Now, in the default, we have left QuickBooks on, which is probably the most common. But there's also group one here for Peachtree and one for Simply Accounting, which are the two next most commonly used external general ledger systems. But if you're not going to be, if you're using the internal accounting, then the GL exports will all be turned off because they're not relevant. And then you would not use the close export if you're using the internal accounting module. And then the backup. Now, whether we are within a group, you can change the order of these by either selecting the Move Up button over here or the Move Down button. So you can change the order of items or reports or actions within a group. You can also, if you're so inclined, change the order of the groups themselves. Now, within a group, you can add. If we're going to copy this report, say we want it in one of the quick report groups, then we would select the report that we want out of the main report menu, select Copy To, and then select the group name, the quick report group name that we want. Let's say that we want it in the beginning close reconciliation. So we would select it and then simply say OK. And now that adds that report to that beginning close group. And if we close that, and come down to the daily close or the begin close, now we've added that report to this particular group. Now the reverse is possible. If we want to delete this report, we can do so. We can simply highlight the report that we want to delete and select the delete button on the right, and we can delete it. It's going to ask us confirm that, say yes, and now that report will be deleted from that particular group where we had previously added it. What is significant to note is that you can add reports and you can delete those reports that you added, but you cannot delete reports that are labeled as a system report. Those you'll notice that you cannot physically delete. Your choices there are to remove it from the menu that simply says, I'm not interested in using that report, but physically you cannot delete them from the system. The same thing is true with the various report groups, the predefined ones in the system, be they in the reports menu or in the quick reports menu. You cannot physically delete these groups. You can mark them, take them off of the menu with the show on menu choice. You can add groups if you want, just like you can add a report. but you cannot physically delete a system group or a system report. You can delete a custom report or a custom group. Just to recap what we've talked about in customization, we've talked about adding reports, adding groups, removing reports, removing groups, and we've talked about the ability to reorder reports within a group or the groups themselves. And I just reaffirmed that you can physically delete reports that you have added, groups that you have added. You can physically delete them. The system or the predefined reports in a group or the predefined groups, you cannot physically delete them, but rather you can take them off of the menu so that they don't show. So to recap, in the first video we talked about just an introduction and an overview to the concept of closing, what it is, how you do it, when you do it. In this video we talked about the setup steps, talked about the predefined groups for closeout, the predefined groups for the analytical reports, and then some simple steps on how you customize the quick report groups to suit your preferences. In the next video, we will talk just briefly about the actual process and the steps for doing a normal close at the end of a day or at the end of a month or a year.